Since you've been in the industry for a while, what was the thing you missed? Was there anything
Uh,
that you wish you could have gone back and said, "Man, I should have bet on that," instead of
uh,
we all know those famous stories of when Wozniak offered, the Apple One to his bosses, and his bosses said, "Oh,
yeah,
we can't deal with this," you know.
right. Yeah. God, I know I've got to have missed a zillion things, but I think I do that all the time. I mean, we wrote a paper, and Jim Gray and I wrote a paper in '97, and the thing we should have nailed by precisely is this, and the fact that this is going to be this is continually evolving into kind of a computer replacement in some sense, or it's carrying on a lot of the communication load. It doesn't carry on the document load and stuff like that, but it's certainly the a lot of the, I mean, it's not quite the web. This isn't really a very good web interface, particularly because of the, the screen size and the damn communication. We have such poor communication infrastructure in the U.S.
Actually, if you put an RSS aggregator on there, it's actually halfway usable.
Okay.
Because that will trickle stuff down
Oh
into the
yeah.
phone, and
Okay.
you can read it. So you don't read it live; you read it sort of a minute later.
Minutes later.
And,
Yeah.
also because RSS strips out all the pictures and graphics
Okay.
and color, it's a lot easier to read on the
Right.
small screen. So
Yeah. Roger's continuing to evolve it, but from my point of view, it has the critical elements. I got a camera.
going through history, what are the key turning points that you saw, and tell us a little story about
Well, I
you
mean,
know
I think if you look at it, computing in the large uh, things, I mark the things by computer generations, which are really hard, kind of hardware marks, and the fact that the integrated circuit was without the integrated circuit, we would have computers. They'd be more like the early views of what computers were, where you essentially had rooms and things like that, but they wouldn't be in there or a watch or in here. And so life to me would have been totally different without the integrated circuit. So the integrated circuit was a key transition point. Transistor was too, but in a sense, its main contribution was allowing or being the platform for integrated circuits. Um, so then hardware, then that allowed essentially all, to me, it's all been a story about Moore's law, or the evolution of Moore's law. And then on top of that, you put then the other transition was in fact convergence with moving from packet switching that came in from ARPANET that was 1960. I'm sorry, it was 1970.
mm-hmm.
Uh, uh, first network ARPANET, and then that was didn't mail came out of that, but that really didn't kick in until the real big bang was the web, was enabling the web, and so the web was in a sense as almost as important as the computer itself, but not in any real way, but one enabled the other. So I mean, historically, I look at things that's really what's made it all interesting. And now, from our standpoint, the thing that's making it really interesting is the huge stores which enable us to put our life. So essentially, we put our lives online with it. So that's I think we're in a new transition too with you know Moore's law of story, or the equivalent of technology progress function that's even more radical than Moore's law, because it's been almost a doubling every year for the last 5 or so years. that sort of sneaks up on people because they didn't realize that now they're talking about everybody's got 100 gigs, and gee, 10 years ago, that was 100 megs.
Oh.
And boy, is that different.
10 years ago? I'd give a talk at San Jose State, and we talked about 13 years ago when I was in college that a Mac that we had there had 4 megs of RAM.
Yeah, no, I'm
meg
talking
was,
the store. Yeah.
but our hard drives were 20 megabyte
Yeah.
hard drives.
Okay,
on
yeah.
Macs.
Right, okay, sure. And so it was in
now
that.
you got 100
Right.
gigs.
Yeah, remembering when
500
we had those Macs that 10, 20 megs, and I remember, oh God, why am I gonna? Do I really need to buy a 50 or 80 meg machine because
Yeah.
all I've got is all this text on there, and it all fits just fine. But now we store everything, and we're both running out. Jim's got 80, and he's out of storage, and I've got 180, and
And you're running out.
no, I've got enough room, but because got although I hit we just, I don't remember, I think we just put in another, there's a part of my stuff, we just kicked in, I think we've got 50 gigs. We finally scanned all the video, we put all my video online, because you get, over time you'll accumulate, you give a talk and somebody says, hey, I'll give you, do you want to videotape of this? Oh, sure. So I had this stack of videotapes that of course, videotapes, nobody can use videotapes. I mean, and the last thing you want is, oh my God, they sent me a videotape. Well,
Yeah.
go get a VHS.
Yeah, my VHS isn't even connected.
To go unravel this thing. And so we put all of that on there. And so I've got a machine that has all of that. And actually I think maybe, about 10 years ago, I decided I wanted to, I kind of had an inkling at some point I'd like to have all this stuff scanned. At that point, I had a bunch of 8mm film, and so not super 8mm, God, and we put that on VHS, and then that's been carried forward now. But anyway, it's one of those things.
If Bill Gates walked in right now, what would you guys talk about?
Actually, probably, a thing that I'm interested in now is the possibility of making these smart objects. That is, having the single chip radio computer for dealing with the networking, for dealing with the network app, and then the application itself, and then some I/O there. So a single chip thing that's small chip could, with a small battery that would last like a 2470 Sierra 2470 or something like that. Battery about that big, or 7mm thick, 24 centimeters around, and so it's about the same size as a chip, plus any transducers that you would have, and then what kinds of things that will enable, and the fact that we ought to be doing, we ought to be building a bunch of stuff based on these smart thingies. So, that's probably
What kind of thing do you think?
Well, I mean, it's anything that you think that knowing the state. I mean, from a pragmatic or economic and pragmatic standpoint, it's anything that you'd like to communicate with where you think it has some state that's of value to you, whether it's telling you, it's on a bottle cap and saying the thing shouldn't be drunk or used or what have, or the last time you opened it, or you haven't, or you need to open that bottle cap, you know, to
Something's malfunctioning in your fridge.
yeah, I mean,
Basically adding smart.
yeah, I mean, there's the short-term stuff, but but it's the ability to different than an RFID, but the RFID and it are related. Only it's something where it can be proactive in terms of doing of sensing something and then using that to inform, as opposed to, geez, I have to go, you know, why didn't you tell me you were no good, you know, pointing a thing at something, you know, or, you know, a burglar alarm or a light alarm, I mean, there's a whole bunch of things that enables it in the standard alarm world, but monitoring, you know, just monitoring, and I really don't know.
What are you proudest of in your career?
I don't know. I think the museum probably has to go way up there in terms of just that has ended up being really something that I believe will last. I mean, you look at things that you think will last. When I was at the National Science Foundation, I wrote the proposal for internet, and so, you know, I think that was useful.
You wrote the proposal for what?
Internet.
Okay.
There's a politician who might argue about the internet.
Well, you know, and I was there at the time when all this happened, and in fact, you know, and the thing we can't quite understand at this point on that whole issue is where the bill, a thing called the Gore bill, came from. But the Gore bill basically said, NSF, will you write a proposal will you study this whole thing? And so I was heading the computing part of NSF at the time, and so and then I led the group across agencies that wrote that response to the Gore bill, saying here's what we need to do, and essentially wrote a plan for the internet, and how bandwidth was going to be done, and a whole bunch of other things. You know, of course, we didn't totally miss the web. We had studies and things like that. So, what's the internet for? Oh yeah, we got to connect all these supercomputers, and we got mail, all this stuff. We got to do visualization across the stuff, but we totally missed the what it really became. So the web, you know, certainly that writing that and getting agreement to go do that across the agencies and just doing it, and then the way NSF put money into the various local networks, and got the network infrastructure to start, university infrastructure, and then the way that ultimately got into the commercial sector was important. And then there's you know, I love the machines that I worked on. That was good. To me, life is a bunch of projects, and so you try to find the most interesting projects, you know, create or be where you can do interesting stuff.
So projects and dinners with cool people.
Projects, yeah, life to me is projects, you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
So based on your theory, where do you see computers going? Like where we are today, I mean, would you agree that for the horsepower we get, we really aren't taking advantage of it to the degree we should, especially software? Is that a fair statement to make?
Yeah, I mean, you'd always think you can get a lot more out of them than you know, given all the speed and things like that, performance. You know, given the bent here, which is in fact, Jim is a database guy. I mean, I've been infected with, you know, I was a performance guy before. Yeah, what's this disk thing? You know, I become much more enamored, or not enamored, but understanding, hey, it's about the data that you got on there, and being able to access, get that, and have that work.
True.
That's important. So I think there's that aspect of it.
Gary's a neat guy.
Yeah, he really is a wonderful guy.
We got a tour of the research lab there. And
Yeah, right.
we stopped and talked to him about inventing the laser printer. So.
Yeah, sure. Oh, yeah.
His laser printer's in your museum.
Oh,
I
yeah,
saw that.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's great.
It all comes back to the museum.
Yeah, right. No, right. That's that best case.
Yeah.
That's why we're starting to collect software, because that's important too.
Yeah.
Because if we miss the whole, where 90% of the invention is at the
You're right.
software.
Yeah.
I mean,
Hopefully,
it's
hopefully our Channel 9 tapes will end up there too. But,
Yeah.
but,
Sure.
But we got our own museum too, so.
Yeah.
They'll
Well,
probably say, hey, no, you gotta
no,
keep
in
that
fact, in that regard, as you develop that, and it's part of the, archiving, part of the mystery of, of Microsoft. I think I haven't looked at the museum in Redmond for a long time. They had a good museum at one point, and then
It's way better. They just
they
improved it.
reinvigorated it.
Yeah,
It went through a zero.
It's a quarter museum, and then the rest of it is exhibits about what we're doing.
Okay,
what
that's
Microsoft is doing.
exactly what we should.
Yeah.
So is it still with, was it with above the store?
It's below the store.
Or below
Yeah.
the store,
Yeah.
okay. I'll go look at it again, but,
It's nothing like the museum in Mountain View that you guys.
no, I know,
Yeah.
but in fact, it was, when I saw it in the store, it was worse than, or they had taken a whole bunch of stuff out. It used to be in another, where the displays were, I think, or where the TV studios were. I don't remember what the building was, 30 something.
Huh.
One.
Yeah, they were, but it was quite good, and so the issue is whether, how, we've got people who deal with the collecting of Microsoft. It's really important to have that, so all these tapes should, particularly about individuals in there.
Well, and also
Should be-
working. I mean, we get tours of hallways and
Sure.
and labs.
Yeah,
And other
right.
things. So you get, in
A
50
feeling
years,
about
it'll
it.
be really neat to be able
Yeah.
to look
There's
back.
no reason why your My Life work
Yeah,
can't be extended from just a personal
yeah.
context to a corporate context to
Sure.
a group, to a group context.
Oh, yeah,
et cetera.
that's right.
And that's
Well,
what's
we
key,
ought to think about how to, you guys, well, let's figure out how we could do that to extend it, think of it in the same context.
You got it. I mean, your museum is pretty much my life of computers
Yeah,
in a physical
yeah,
sense.
right. In fact, I kind of think of the museum as a overall grand extension of this, and then corporations need the same thing.
Sure.
And in fact, when I was doing the collecting for DEC, the model I used was a lot at IBM. IBM had a wonderful collection. Watson had kept a lot of things, and they had an absolutely gorgeous warehouse with all their machines and things like that. And it was going through, when IBM got in trouble, why they were sort of acquiring things, and they wanted to, close the warehouse and throw everything out. And I said, God, you can't do that. Thank God Gerstner came in and saved the company, because IBM is a unique, great institution. But I feel that way about Microsoft. It needs to, and Bill feels that way
Sure.
too. I mean, in a way, it has to come from the founders, or other people can do it too, but it does have to come from the top, because once it gets down a little bit, then there's always somebody that why in the hell are we do we have any of this stuff? You know, why are we saving? Why are we spending any money to save it? This is junk.
Yeah.
In fact, there's this article that just came out, Business Week. So there's an article about that I do a Q&A with the reporter that's apparently online, and then apparently the other article is going to be out there too, which is a Business Week article on the Christie's thing, and I quoted a little bit in that, but that's overall about collecting. So anyway, we haven't talked to the museum. You know, I haven't met them. I've emailed them from time to time about different things about what we do in the corporation, but we really probably should think of it in the same context that we're doing stuff, and then they could even use our software, which is just put it all in and particularly get all the stuff that they may want to scan and have in that form. I mean, because I'm sure they've got physical copies of everything, and then also we've got this new group that's super group. Somebody that's interested in an interesting session for you guys is a company that we bought, and I don't remember the name of the guys, but they're, of course, they must be on Microsoft. Pretty neat people. But they are doing. They have a simulation of everything going back in time. So basically, if you have a program that ran on DOS-1 or something, the equivalent of that, they will run this. They'll run this.
Which company is that?
We bought a company. It's now part of Microsoft, and the people live in Redmond, and their life is about simulation. Namely, they simulate environments. So
Interesting.
they will.
That's not. Is that part of the
That's
virtual
amazing.
PC group now, or
Sounds like it would be.
Could
or
be.
or a sister group?
That's interesting.
Yeah, I
Well,
guess
cool.
I can find them through there probably, but I mean that'll be a hard one to. But I have found them a couple of times after I've lost them, but I met the guys about a year ago, and I'm trying to get them to, because one of the things we're doing at the museum is simulating. We're now into simulating into the machines, because that's the only way to preserve software.
Which brings up a point. I don't really know the Cray architecture, which is why I'm asking this question.
Sure.
But it's hard for me to believe that the Cray would have less RAM than your cell phone. Is that true? Because you mentioned that everything in the
No,
computer.
it depends on.
Yeah,
I mean, I have a hard time.
Probably up to a certain point in time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, no, the Cray, the first Cray 1, the Cray 1 had 64 meg, so it was a 1 mega word machine, 8 bits per word. So I'm sorry, 8. No, sorry, it had 8 megabytes. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I remember Apple Computer bought one to design the Macintosh, and it was on the front page of the Mercury News. It was a big deal that they bought one of these things.
Yeah.
Do you have the final Cray they made?
And back then, I mean, our Apple IIs had 16K of RAM, right?
Yeah, right.
So having 80 megs of RAM or some
8 megs. Yeah.
8 megs, not 80, 8 megs.
8 megs, and that was 1970.
8. I mean,
No, 75 or so, and when he first came out with the Cray 1, he had been at CDC and had produced the 6600 and the 7600.
Yeah.
And actually,
It's amazing. I mean, when you visit the museum, you really realize how far and how fast we come. I mean,
yeah,
they have the 10 megabyte hard drive that's as big as the table.
Yeah.
And it's like, and probably made a god awful noise when you was